Anyway, my question is, we know that the human being is an zoon politikon, according to Aristotle, social being. But these robots, artificial intelligence, have more influence in the individual than in the society. My question is this correct, this observation, or not? Because this can also develop more the individualism that is present in the today's society, that a vision of the common good and a vision of the society as such.
Thank you. Thank you, Marcelo. Well, I think you are right in the sense that I don't think that the robot could be a relational subject in this sense. So it's not able to build up relations for the common good, etc., because it is basically an individual and it thinks of itself. It could be some kind of reflexivity or reflectivity within itself, but not on the social relations, which is peculiar to the human being. So you're right on that. Thank you.
Okay.
Talking about sociologists, I disagree completely.
Okay. Noted. Colleagues, thank you. Would you like to elaborate, or very briefly?
Very briefly, yes. Certainly the main concentration has been upon individual robots. But there are two things that have been missing. One I started to talk about this morning, which is human-robot interaction. And, well, there are three things. The second thing is robot-to-robot communication. Because if we accept that AI robots can be proficient language users, then why do we not spend any time, or very little time, because I've searched for it in the journals, looking at what robots say to one another? And the third point, which is very much about relationality and about caring, though I certainly wouldn't call that an ethic, I'd call it an activity, these are very individualistic and they're concentrated upon client satisfaction. Now, I have no objections to that whatsoever, but it could be, and it's certainly worth exploring, that clients, the elderly, autistic children, all of those categories that are praised for the things that robots can do for them, it may be that teams of robots could give them even greater satisfaction, and that therefore that's worth exploring. And that would be very relational indeed.
Okay.
No, well, I think if I can add just a sentence, the robot-to-robot communication doesn't mean social relation. In order to have a relationality that constitutes what we call the common good or the relational good, you should have a relationship. And I've tried to explain that between communication and relation or relationship or relationality, there is a big difference. Are two different orders of reality. That's my explanation.
Okay.
But we ended up with
okay, let me cut it here and use this as an example what we will need to consider in our concluding statement, draft statement. It will say something about controversies. We are an academy. It would be sad if we would be in agreement. We had started with conflicts on consciousness. We end on disputes, on relationships. And there were lots of other open issues in between, also technical issues. Colleagues, let me open up the last session and keep it more United Nations style brief, not hammering something out, but briefly talk about process, then call on Stefano and Margaret if they have any additional points to make at the end of the workshop. I would like to talk briefly about process. We had alerted you that we would table a draft statement here at the conference. That draft has been prepared on the basis of what we had gleaned from your papers before the conference. Most of you were kind enough to send your papers in early on. Thank you for that. However, we had dynamism during the conference, which we also want to reflect. So, if any one of you has scribbled in the existing draft which is on the table, hand it to me. If anyone is interested to say something on the content of the statement, please don't edit it. Rest assured, it will be more further copy edited. If you didn't read it, Marcus, yes, you got it. Then by midnight Wednesday next week, let me just give a deadline. Before that, send an email to the Secretariat and copy me so that nothing gets lost. And simply send emails with points of substance referring to a number in the statement. And we will try to factor your points in. The statement is already too long. Those of my colleagues who had a chance to read it have broadly agreed on that. We will distill a summary. So, points of disagreement and points of strong feelings, please communicate them to me and the Secretariat, and I share that with the organizers of this meeting. Out of that will come a statement. It's not a declaration. You are not insinuated by it. We don't go through, in an academic meeting, we don't need to go through an adoption process of that nature. But in principle, I would like to ask at this stage, especially if my co-organizing current and former chairs, presidents of the Social Science Academy, would like to add anything at this point. Stefano, can I ask you if you would like to come in with any comments at this point on process or on content?
Thank you. Yes, I totally agree with the process. I think that what you have said is functional and up to the point. Second, I read this draft statement, and as already said to Joachim, I agree with it. I have very small, but I will respect your rule by Wednesday midnight, less 1 minute, because you have to anticipate by 1 minute. I will let you know. But I agree that we should modify what is already here without adding anything else, because otherwise the idea of having a summary is fits. And let me stress that the diversity of ideas position is a blessing in an academy. That is why what you said at the beginning finds my support. We should not be afraid. After all, biodiversity exists not only in nature but even in culture, and it is through the cross-fertilization of ideas that progress is guaranteed. So I had no major, let's say, I couldn't give any input in the preparation of this because I came at a later stage when everything, but I think I have to congratulate both Maggie and you for having devised this major and very important workshop. So I think we have to be grateful.
Oh, you don't have to, but thank you. Margaret, any comments at this point?
No. As long as you don't expect me to stay up until midnight on Wednesday.
Okay, thank you. Now, anyone behind me or in front of you would like to take briefly the floor? I've seen one hand up there.
One is sleeping, so don't
Yeah.
speak.
Okay. Yeah. Careful. When Japanese colleagues sleep, they listen still.
What's that?
Go ahead.
Just a small thing. I also agree this is a really nice statement. The foundational issues in AI and robotics, you said it yesterday when we all convened for the first time about how let's not talk about ethics as an afterthought or a side project, but make it much more of this integral part of the conversation. You know, it's not about making the technologies and then going, oh, what are the ethical issues?
Yeah.
And I thought maybe it would be nice to have that in the foundational issues in AI and robotics, that ethics is this accompaniment to the development.
Yeah, integral, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Colleagues, I'm pleased to leave it at that on process. But, you know, first of all, after the workshop is before the workshop. Stefano, you announced already there will be another one, broadly related to AI issues in economics probably, or social science. That is interesting. We have the idea, and I've talked with Margaret and Greg a lot about that, to aim for a book publication. Not all papers will qualify for that, but a good part of the papers, and papers which are currently not in the form that they would qualify for an academic press book, can still be pushed in that direction. So you will get an email from us that gives clarifications on the way forward on publication. And we will give you, of course, a lot more time than until Wednesday regarding your paper. At this stage, I only want one paper per person. I know that was not your question, and you ask a question which cannot be answered. I want quality papers. If we get 100 quality papers, welcome. If it's 10, we leave it at that. This is the moment when I want to thank the people who have worked behind the scene and who currently probably don't hear me. There are a few, from the wonderful secretariat, which we have here in the Pontifical Academy. I would like to ask you to give them a round of applause. And if you continue to applaud, then it is to all of you who have worked hard for the content of this workshop, for the good disputes and debates which we had here, and for making this workshop, in my opinion, a great success. Thank you, and enjoy the dinner. Thank you.